pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start the meeting, Mr. Clerk, would you please pray for us?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather today. We thank you for the charge you've given each of us to serve the people of Hampshire County. We just pray that you would discharge them in a faithful manner that will please you. In Jesus' name.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call the meeting to order. The first order of business will be the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, which the Commission has already received a digital copy. And unless I hear any edits that need to be made, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll move that we approve those minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Moving on to President's and Commissioners' reports. Try to be brief. There's two of the things that I dealt with mainly since our last meeting are on the agenda here. We did have a PVTA meeting. Mainly it was the election of officers and update on contracts to our work routes with Trex that give individuals and citizens a ride to work. So those have maintained, they've been strong, and they've even grown. So that's a huge revenue source for the Transportation Department, and also allows us to be more sustainable and take less taxpayer funding. So also worked with the lawmakers and delegates on the Airbnb issue. I sent the Commission an informative email. If you didn't see that, I printed out forms and things to give these lawmakers a better idea of the information a Airbnb owner gets, and then also show them the information that the county gets and explain the issues and the just getting a lump sum figure. It leaves a lot of information needed, and you gentlemen know all about that, but for the public, it's we receive a lump sum payment from Airbnb and these other institutions, and there's no way to correlate that with which Airbnb owner actually paid their taxes. So seems Airbnb only responds to legislation, and they're a global company, so they're not going to do any more paperwork than they have to. So we did ruffle enough feathers to get several of the senators to also take it to committee, and I'm being told in October, November it'll be introduced to Government Organizations Committee. So we do have it on the table, so that was positive. Frontier woes, which I believe it's several calls, so we have that on the agenda. Also did receive an email on the NIH SAMHSA grant, and I believe HCSA is here today, but I did want to recognize Courtney Turner, who's here, and just thank you for your diligent efforts in helping Rolf and Tad and the institution. Really do appreciate it, and it was kind of refreshing to hear some good things. There's always controversy with HCSA, but that was a positive. So thank you for your hard work. Health Department groundbreaking today at 6 p.m. Gentlemen, did you receive an email?
You're going to be there.
Did you know about that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
You're going to be there.
I'm going to try to be, yes, sir.
Yeah, the president should be there.
Thank you. Let's see here. I did want to talk about the courthouse improvement, but I'll talk about that later. Many calls on the subdivision land development ordinance, Old Caton Bridge Junior High roof. And I did work with JT Hott and the prosecutor for bond counsel, which Commissioner Hott just gave me another option here. So I'm going to continue to work on that. Moving on, Commissioner Eglers, did you have a report, sir?
I do. Couple things. Recycling committee, attended that there a while back. Just a few updates. Our grant stuff from the prior grant is completed and working. Commissioner Hott had also got us some surplus items through Region 8, I believe, and the Recycling Committee was glad to get those. I have plans to put that stuff to use as well, and continue to see a lot of good things happen with the Recycling Committee there, both through the county and the volunteer system we have out there. And I just want to commend them for a job well done, you know, and that continues to be something we can provide to the citizens without it costing the county money. They've made their self-sustainable, and that was one of the goals I had when we started that committee. So I just want to, there's a lot more details with that, and you could contact Mr. Ronkin, the president of that committee, for the details. I won't go into all that, but a lot of successes out there, and they plan to apply again when they can for more grant funding to make more improvements. Also spoke with several people on the Frontier landline issue down at North River Mills, but like Commissioner Cannon said, we got that on the agenda, so I'll go into more detail there. I got several calls, emails, text, messenger messages about the old Caton Bridge roof. I do got to take a couple minutes here to straighten out the article in the paper, followed by an opinion by Sidney Maurer. Just several inaccuracies there, which I think, you know, certainly is a reason why Commissioner Cannon and myself probably got a lot of phone calls, which rightfully so to get the phone calls, but not rightfully so to misinterpret what's really going on down there. So I'm just going to go through that quickly. In the article, I guess it was an article written from the meeting at the Development Authority meeting. It stated in there that Commissioner Eglinger had urged the Parks and Rec to close the entire building. First of all, there's never been discussion of closing the entire building, and the only discussion of closing the business end of the building, and for clarification, we consider there's two ends to that building. There's the business end, which has the sheriff's tax office, Hardynet, and then several private renters. And then there's the recreational end, which is the dining hall and the kitchen and the gym and the rooms that go along with the gym. For the business end, in discussions over the past year, what I did say was that if a small entity like Parks and Rec with a small budget, you know, with 60-some thousand from the commission, and they almost produce that much on their own. So with a budget under $120,000, that there was no way that they could be expected by the commission, the community, or any other county entity to bear the burden of that whole building. And that, you know, eventually, if that was the case, it would cause them to have to close the doors on that part of the building. That's what I said, not what was quoted in the paper. And obviously, you know, there was Plan B or Plan C there too, and obviously the commissioners see the need for that building down there, because we just approved a new roof for that building in May. We did hold off on it because we also had our grant writer working on a grant for $1.65 million to totally renovate that building down there. And then at our last meeting, just recently, which should have been easy enough to research, we confirmed that we were going to fix the roof down there, and our CVB graciously put another $60,000 towards a project that they hadn't been able to start yet towards that. So my point is that the article lacks a lot of other positives. Sydney tends to dwell on the negatives when it comes to our commission, and I'm not afraid to point it out. But there's a lot of positives there. Her opinion, or so-called opinion, it's paid, so I don't really call it an opinion, but she states that does anybody in the county care about Cape and Bridge? Well, obviously Parks and Rec does. They stepped up to take that building when nobody else would. Between the Parks and Rec and the County Commission and some nonprofit, private folks down there, $225,000 has already been invested in that building. The commission just approved a whole new roof on the old half of it. Our grant writer spent several months, well, I won't say several because he had to do it quick, but our grant writer spent 3 to 4 months for an intense grant down there that would have put $1.65 million into that building. The reports tell us we were close on that grant. We might have gotten it. But you know, the 3 commissioners here could have chosen to spend that money elsewhere in the county. But we chose to try to fix up that building because we know the need down there. These commissioners, I'm sure, can vie for how many times I've came to them telling them how much that building gets used and that there's a need down there and that we need to keep it and that we need to fix it. I've come to both of our other commissioners explaining that to them. Parks and Rec saw it, and like I said, they stepped up. There was also a comment that the newer part roof was leaking. That, you know, we're not sure, but that roof has never leaked before. Personally, I think it's a drainage issue at the double doors, at the old double doors in the back, and it's coming through in under the door, so which would be a much less problem than if the roof were leaking. And again, we've never had a history of problems with the newer part of the roof down there. But all in all, you know, what I want to say is, living here in Hampshire County, I would think we could stay away from the type of media that we see in our nation with CNN and NBC and ABC, because I know my folks here in the county, and I know my constituents, and they don't care for that, and we don't need it in our local paper either. You know, Ms. Maurer should have, instead of picking the Parks and Rec apart, she ought to be thanking them. You know, and instead of picking the commission apart, she ought to be thanking them. She ought to thank the CVB for stepping up. A lot of positive there that was left out of her article and her so-called opinion. But Commissioner Cannon, I just needed to straighten that out. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. I wanted you to speak first on that, but yeah, I mean, not to mention that the school board, you know, trying to be conservative and not having the money to take care of that building would have been a lot easier for us to just let it go. It would have been the easy way out, and we didn't choose that way. You know, $90-some thousand in HVAC units, $120,000+ roof. It's pretty clear that we didn't take the easy way out and that we do care. So I won't belabor on it, but Commissioner Hott, I'm sorry we went a little over, sir, but you have a report.
Well, you know, I can be short. But to sum that up, Sidney Maurer has never got a story right since I've been a commissioner, regardless of what it is. So that ought to take care of that. I attended the Central Hampshire PSD meeting where they give us all updates on the different water projects, which are moving along good, and we've got the water out at the Slanesville School, and so the reason it hadn't been opened yet is don't have anything to do with the water. The Perkinsville water project is proceeding along nicely. Other than that, for the Central Hampshire, there was nothing else to report on. And also attended the HCSA meeting last, I forget what day it was, anyway, Thursday. Anyway, they're here to make a recommendation. So I'll go ahead and close with that because they're going to go over the meeting quite specifically. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. HCESA, operational procedures.
Morning, how are you all today?
Good morning.
I want to give you a directive that we put out a couple weeks ago on changing and trying to reduce some cost. And where we're not having an ambulance tagging up and down the road all the time behind each other. I know a lot of people see that from time to time.
There's a chair over there, Brent. Okay.
So that is the directive that we just put out on August 26th to all of our staff to reduce the cost. Then one of the other issues that was talked about and we're here today about is the ALS Chase. So when I spoke to you all in budgetary times,
Thank you.
we were discussing how much money you could save if we was to remove the chase. I incorrectly told you all $300,000. The $300,000 number would be to remove the paramedics from the program. Just simply removing the chase would not remove paramedics. It would, moving them to the truck would mean we would place 4 other positions of lesser pay. That number would be roughly $200,000. And I believe Ms. Turner handed you out some papers there with some numbers on it that she can go over.
So just to give you guys a little context for this, and I laid it out so that you can see what calculations I used in case I did have any errors. These calculations for these positions also include all of the fringe benefits that I got from Bethany down here at the courthouse, so it should encompass everything with the positions. It gives you a layout of what each position costs. It gives you a layout for what each position costs. This is for 18 weeks, and the reason for that is this first part is for the entire year, but the second portion of this starting on the second page is laid out for 18 weeks. When we were looking at ways to best utilize our crew resource management, we looked at different scheduling options and different ways to lay out those crews with that chase vehicle. The two that I want you to specifically look at are highlighted in blue on the second and third page. That is switching to a 24/48 schedule. And the second one in blue is showing what our current situation is being down paramedic. We are currently operating off a schedule that should have 4 paramedics, and we currently only have 3 full-time, just due to the national EMS staffing shortage that's been ongoing. So as you can see there, if we were to switch to the 24/48 schedule, even though there's increased overtime for those specific paramedics, it is a better suited schedule for them and is better for their mental health. But when you look at comparatively what we are doing right now with trying to cover those extra shifts, we'll end up spending more than $60,000 in additional overtime on top of that. just because of trying to backfill those shifts. So that just is to give you a little bit of reference. And the reason why it was laid out for 18 weeks for all of those options is because the way they work all work a little bit differently. So that was the best way to make it an equal calculation between all of them. This were the grant and everything too.
No, let's,
Oh, and then,
questions on that part first. Actually, we brought Mr. Swisher here as a board member today because he was going to be our lead speaker. So we kind of got Brent there, thrown under the bus. But what we're looking at in essence is if you approve the 24/48 schedule, that saves us hiring one paramedic that we are already currently down with just the paramedic program right now. And that is a $60,000 realized savings today. Now, what you also have before you there is the income that is received off the chase, and it amounts to about $84,000 annual. Right now, we're at $51,000, which is what we bill the civilian squads. So with that, if you have any questions, if not, I'll turn it over to Brent to kind of discuss the pros and cons of the chase.
Would you please come to the mic, sir?
That's where you're supposed to do.
Nobody told me this part. I was asked to come speak. I'm basically a citizen of Hampshire County, you know what I mean? And I've been in fire and rescue for 32 years. And we discussed at length the cost versus the benefit of the chase unit. And the benefits far outweigh the costs. It keeps the paramedic available in the event that the calls BLS. And if you have questions about the terms I use, please ask, because I realize you guys are not as well versed as we are. You know, this is something we're all passionate about, these folks. You know, these are paramedics and they can speak better than I can. But it's extremely important to have, if a call comes out, and I hope you all listen to the scanners. I know some of you do, but I hope you do, because then you'll understand better what I'm about to say. If a call comes in, it's not life-threatening. We can't pick and choose. They can't pick and choose the calls they run. They can't. If a call comes in for assistance, they have to go provide assistance. If it's a stubbed toe, if it's a heart attack, they still have to provide the appropriate level of assistance. But if you take away the chase unit and the ambulances that are currently staffed in Springfield, Caton Bridge, and Romney have to have paramedics. If it's a stubbed toe, that paramedic goes to Winchester, or that paramedic goes to Hampshire, or that paramedic goes to PVH. And then all of a sudden, we don't have a paramedic available for the next bad call that comes. It's a poor use of resources, in my humble opinion. There's multiple others. I mean, you have the volunteer agencies. We're still trying. I didn't want to get into budget, but these folks have been asked to expand exponentially their services on the same budget they had from day one. And I'll leave it at that. But if we want, right now they're still currently making crews with quote-unquote civilian squads, Augusta, Romney, and Cape and Springs. If you constrain the paramedics to the squads when they go for a basic call, that limits the capabilities of the civilian squads as well. There are several, it's all laid out here, but like I said, in my humble opinion, the benefits of the chase unit far outweigh the cost. And there's things coming down the pike, and you guys should be proud. And I mean this to Brian, and I mean this to Bob, and Dave. You've really educated yourself about it as well. These folks do a phenomenal job. They really do. I mean, they really do. And on what they've been asked to do it on, to continue to provide the level of service we have probably, arguably, one of the best agencies in the area, if not the state. And I just don't think penalizing the employees by taking away the Chase unit will outweigh the cost savings. I hope I didn't miss anything. I'm not speaking to particulars. If you want to see particulars, I have them.
I believe you all have this paper here too, and that's a summary of everything that was discussed at the board meeting and put together by Ms. Freeze here. It's kind of lengthy, but it is a summary.
And like I said, if you don't currently, I highly encourage you to listen. Tad can get you a radio if you need one. It's extremely important.
And this is not a one and done deal. We're going to continue to look at ways to trim costs. And I believe with Mrs. Turner's grant there that her and the rest of the group has worked on with Mr. Ronkin, that's going to infuse how much money annually into the...
So with that grant, that is going to be a $200,000 a year SAMHSA grant for the next 2 years for a total of just shy of $400,000. And it's actually something that when the state of West Virginia had reached out to congratulate us, they said that as far as they know, it's the largest grant of its kind to ever be awarded to a singular agency in the history of West Virginia. So it's a pretty big accomplishment, and it's going to bring a lot, not only for the agency, but for the civilian squads as well in the area.
And mainly that will alleviate the training segment of the budget.
Yeah, it will, yes, it will do a very long way. It'll pretty much for the next 2 years absorb almost the entirety of the training budget, including a portion of the training officer salary, which is what we used as the in-kind exchange for the grant requirements. So the commission actually doesn't need to do anything money-wise with this grant.
So it'll alleviate salary as well?
Yes, a
some
portion of
salary.
it, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I understand. I appreciate you coming in, Mr. Swisher. Given a lot to think about. I mean, as long as we're going to continue to work on ways to save, I don't want to be the one that's hard on you guys, and I want to hear what Commissioner Hott has to say more than anybody, being your representative of the commission. I trust his opinion. I've trusted it since I've been here. But when you keep looking at the numbers, it's hard to look at. So, Tad, I did have a question. Had you guys looked into why our fee collection had gone down? Have we investigated that or assigned a person to
That's something we
investigate
need to
that?
sit together. I know you're championing that, and what I am seeing, and I was reviewing it yesterday, is a lot of these campers, we're not even collecting. There's 4 different lots down Hollywood and Vine, not owned by me, and none of them are paying anything. And all 4 of them have over 6 campers each. That's $1,200 pretty quick that we're losing out on, and it's all up and down. Not including, I can understand some of the structure, but I don't know where the downfall falls between the planning office, the assessor's office, and who adds them into the system. We do not. We don't see any of that. But I would gladly work with you and come down here and spend some time to see if we can track it down before next year.
Okay. I appreciate it.
I think that's, and I was thinking about that too. I think that's a good idea, Mr. President, if we could maybe appoint a committee with Amanda Barnes and maybe request that the sheriff and the assessor give us someone also on that committee where we can look at these campers. Me and Mr. Malcolm rode down there a year or so ago and checked a lot of these out. Some of them were justifiable. They were paying, some of them weren't. And I think the planning office, I think they would have a big part in this, is trying to help us get these campers, because in my opinion, they utilize the system just as well as anybody else. And we are missing those. And I'm not sure about some of our, like we get, I think the other day, or last meeting, you said we had 29 permits for, and I don't think we're picking all those up, but I don't know that personally. I just don't feel that we are. And I don't know where the downfall is. And that's why I think if we maybe had a committee to do that, where they could work together. We basically always work together with the assessor, and I think we could do that again, and see if we could come up with where these downfalls or these shortages are on the campers, and also on new people move. Matter of fact, I had some people move in above me, and they didn't get a bill, and I made sure they're going to get one. But because the majority of the county is paying this, and we get a better collection fee on our ambulance fee than we do on our taxes. And so the majority of the county is supporting this, and it's very difficult, as Mr. Swisher said. We started this thing in 2018 with a $1.2 million budget, and we had 2 ambulances and maybe 1 chase.
12 hours of
12
chase.
hours. And now we still got the same darn budget, and that's nobody's fault. I mean, we've always tried not to raise the fee, but, and I'm getting off on the fee now, and I shouldn't be, but we've always been reluctant to raise the fee. But all counties around us have a lot more fee than we have, and even a lot of them have a lot less population than we have, and certainly the area. We're probably about the 5th largest county in the state, area-wise. So those are things I think we're just going to have to look at. And getting back to the chase unit, I was adamant about doing away with them. I was. But when Courtney went down and went over, and the other night when she went over these figures, and I changed my mind about it, and I did. And I know both you gentlemen may not want to hear that, but, and Brent and I talked, or Brent gave us some we had a conversation there the other night, and Brent came up with some good ideas about why we should keep them in. And so I've changed my mind about doing away with them, because I thought, in the beginning, I thought that was the best thing to do. But at the end of the day, it's going to make an overall better operation and a better cooperation with the volunteer rescue squads. I mean, we always get a lot of flack about not working with them, but this agency has really tried to work with them as best they can, and so has the commission. And I think this would also help them, because I think maybe now Augusta has a full-time paramedic and the others don't. But you think about going out here, and we got a paramedic on the truck, and Augusta gets there, and Augusta takes the call, and we say, well, we can't put a paramedic on there. Well, then that's going to look bad on us if this person is really, say it's a heart attack or a stroke or whatever. That's really going to look bad. The county wouldn't let us have the paramedic. So there's a lot of positive about keeping the chase units. I know it's costly, but at the end of the day, I'm for this recommendation that they have here on the 24/48 schedule. And Courtney done this. Tad didn't do this. Courtney done this, and I trust her figures more than I trust Tad's.
See how you are.
And that's not digging at Tad. That's just the truth. These are tough decisions, guys. They are tough. I know they're tough. And David, I think, and I'm not sucking up, but I think you have really come a long way and really got into this and are trying to find a good solution. So,
Thank you.
but you still vote how you want to vote.
keep in mind, if I may, the volunteer organizations would not exist if they did not pay. That's what killed Slanesville. They voted to stop paying, they stopped. Some of the folks in Augusta probably make more than RMTs at HCSA. So to call themselves volunteers, sometimes it's a stretch. I'm a purist. I do it because I love the community. I like to help folks. You know what I mean? That's just why I do it. So, but that doesn't make them wrong. And right now, we certainly cannot do without Augusta and Romney. I mean, that would be the nail in the coffin. We just can't.
If I may add something, eliminating the chases also would severely hinder our agency from being able to be a progressively aggressive agency moving forward with what the state is bringing down the pike with uses of ventilators, in the field blood administration for traumas. We just simply would not be able to do that with eliminating the chase. So there are a lot of very invasive procedures that we would need that infrastructure in place as those things come along, some of which we're working on bringing into effect now and just kind of waiting on this decision. So just another bit of information for taking care of our citizens.
And sir, just from my point, 8 months ago, I was in favor of doing away with the chases till Dr. Martin sat up there in my office and explained to me what his plans are, reinforcing what she said. And I think it's in the best interest of the citizens of Hampshire County to continue it if there's any way possible we can do it. I understand we have to look at cutting costs other areas too.
They have finally, and Cole can speak to this in circuit court, and hope the state is finally starting to cut some of the ties that have restrained our paramedics from performing life-saving measures in the field. And I am by no means qualified to speak to this, but hopefully Cole or Courtney or Hope will do that. So there's benefits coming down the road that we'll realize by
Yeah, he is exactly correct.
Yeah, I mean, section 3, pretty much, I didn't go into specific details on it, but it maps out kind of the adherence to best practices. West Virginia is catching us up. Medicine usually takes 20 years to catch up or change. In one change of directors, West Virginia has probably gone 10 years in catching up to pre-hospital medical care. And you're talking to a community that does not have, with the exception of Charleston area, does not have those high-level hospitals to fix people 5 minutes after they're hurt. You're talking, we have 45 minutes to an hour, and that is all over, and especially this county, to get to a level that can give them long-term care. So these pilot programs that are only available on a chase unit, because it's not cost-effective to put all these things on a ventilator, would not be cost-effective on every single ambulance, nor would it be necessary. So by removing the chase, you've either increased how much you have to spend to outfit every ambulance on stuff that's not going to utilize as much, or you're just removing the ability to treat patients to begin with.
What is your plan for the sleeping quarters?
We're figuring this, the 2448 would take place in October. Right now, they're going to probably use one of our offices. After hours would be, and the sleeping time would only be a 10 to 6 a.m. arrangement. At the center, and this is the only at the center, and this is only for the medics program right
Chase.
now. Pardon?
On the chase.
Yes, the Chase medics.
How
And-
much, if any, time and a half is figured into that type of shift per employee, if any?
8 hours of overtime per week, and that is calculated into this calculation, and I can go through them if you need me to after the fact. That's why I laid it out so you could see how I calculated it.
Yeah.
But that is factored into that as well, and this is more of a traditional EMS schedule. So even with that 8 hours calculated in, that $60,000 savings is on top of the medics being paid that additional overtime.
Right now, if we continue them working 3 on a 4-person schedule, they are looking at in a 1/3 of a year working 972 hours versus 800. So if we continue as we're going, you're looking at 100, I believe it was 142 additional overtime hours without changing to a 24/48 presently.
I mean, I think all of these are great ideas, and that's what makes it even harder. But the bottom line is, we have to find a way to save money. I mean, even if we raise the fee today, it's not going to help this year's budget. So,
An additional savings that is in there that I did not cover initially because it's a little bit separate. Part of the expenditures that we've had for this year is we've had several unfortunate circumstances with employees where 2 of them were out on FMLA on fairly serious injuries that needed to have surgery. And then 2 employees that have been out due to a very severe family illness. If you look on page 6, it does show the cost for these people if in certain job types, if someone is sick and they call off, you don't have to backfill it. In EMS, you have to find somebody to sit in that seat. So not only are those people being paid out for their PTO that they've rightfully accrued, but then also having to usually, if we can't get a part-timer to cover that, to go into overtime, bringing in one of the other full-timers in. So with that calculation, and this is something that in normal operational cost we wouldn't see, with that calculation, once those are solved, which the 2 that are out on injury are returning this week or next week.
Ideally this month.
Yeah, so they'll be returning very shortly. Those cost savings will probably be like about $30,000 with that, just because it was unfortunate circumstances that we had run into that was not avoidable. So that's another cost savings there once we return to normal operations with those situations.
So on this form, I broke it down by quarter. I broke down scheduled hours and overtime hours paid out across full-time employees. And then I gave a reasoning for why things were where they were. I actually have it broken down even more that we could provide at a later date, which is by employee, to show how many days of months actually at specific employees are on FMLA. But if you look in the first quarter, one of the reasons we had extra was moving to Springfield the 24/7, and then we had 2 employees go right out on FMLA. Going right out in the second quarter, we were running the same thing. 2, actually, I believe we fluctuated between 3 employees out on FMLA. Going into third quarter, we were down to 1 employee, and then rapidly went back out to 3 employees back on FMLA. So that's kind of been a big fluctuation that we've been running into, and we'd get fully staffed, and then May, at the end of our second quarter, we were finally fully staffed and only in FMLA. We ended up having a few employees go part-time status, so that put us onto that as well. So it's just kind of been a very unexpected year. This has not been a good fiscal year to budge for overtime standpoints, to predict for.
and if I understand correctly, you're saying there's no way to do this style shift composition and eliminate overtime?
No.
On the 12s, no.
I
The
don't
only thing
think
you're doing
that-
with that 2448 is hopefully making it a draw to get more people, because that seems to be what the paramedic firefighter crews like. And because we have 0 applications for medics. We haven't had an application for a medic in months. And we're down 1 medic right now on the trucks. We had 1 resign there a month ago. But it is removing 1 extra person. I understand we're paying overtime, but we're not paying the fringes and the benefits and all that on 1 person by moving to 2448.
And it's still less than.
And when we move to the new building, it will be there. The facilities will be there for that.
And if you, we do have one of our Chase medics here, if you guys want input from any of the employees on the benefits of it too, if you want that.
Cole, would you like to speak?
So they've already touched on a bulk of what I had, what I had already kind of pre-prepared for it. So I'll just kind of summarize it. So pulling me off of the chase car, I'm one of the day shift paramedics. I've been here since the inception of HCSA. Pulling me off the chase car, like they said, that's going to put me on the truck. So not only am I still expected to provide ALS coverage to the rest of the county, which is huge, and all of you all know that, I'm also going to be expected to cover my own first due area, which is Romney, half of Augusta, a little chunk of Springfield, most of Levels, Purgattsville, so a very broad area. And with me being pulled off the chase onto that, I'm being dedicated to cover every call, whether it's a stub toe, a hunting accident, a heart attack, a stroke. It doesn't matter. I'm dedicated to that. And if I got to go to Cumberland, that's 2 hours I'm gone. I got to go to Winchester, that's almost a 3.5-hour turnaround, depending how long we have to sit and hold the wall, because they've had a lot of issues of getting patients into rooms with appropriate times. So that's one of the very much negative sides of being in the pool of the Chase. They also touched on having our ALS providers on the Chase car is giving us very unique opportunities to run pilot programs from the state, such as new drugs, new equipment, the ventilators, establishing an RSI program, which helps us with very sick people or trauma patients that are going to lose their airway status, that we can take that over for them. Courtney touched on the whole blood administration. That would not be cost effective. We would not be any way be able to do that if we had to put refrigerators and all the equipment on the trucks. If we can just keep that central on the Chases. They also touched that with Dr. Martin, he is a very, very progressive medical director. From talking with him, he has very much open ideas of continuing to push and progress all EMS clinicians in West Virginia, but especially the paramedics, by very much removing our handcuffs from us and allowing us to be providers. Like I said, I talked to him a little bit when he was up talking to Tad, and the ideas that he has is just phenomenal. Outside of that, I don't really have any other points that they haven't really exaggerated on, but I just think it would be a very, very detrimental decision to pull us off of the Chases and to place us on the trucks. I think that would very much hinder the capabilities that we have to provide to the citizens, and also, like Brent said, it'll hinder what we can provide to the still existing volunteer units.
Thank you.
Yep.
What was is there any realization of savings from the 24/8, Mr. Malcolm, other than, because you had mentioned $60,000, but then there's a counter thing to that, so it's a wash, or is there a savings?
No, it's going to still be, you're going to see a savings to it.
Okay.
How much was the savings we should see on that?
So the savings was the $60,000 as to what we are currently being forced to do with 3 paramedics with 4 positions open. So that's where that $60,000 will come in. The biggest savings, of course, comes from the fringe of not having that 4th person.
Okay.
The operational costs, if I remember correctly, the 2448, I think, cost $2,000 more in order for that operational period to switch to the 2448 versus what the fully staffed 4-person would do, because the fringe adds so much on to it. So I think annually that would be what, $6,000 above what our fully staffed of 4 people would be. So the $60,000 saving of having to pay massive amounts of overtime and completely burning our providers out is definitely well worth that.
The other thing I just was taking a few notes. Of course, you guys know I was heavily involved in the start and helped Ted write the ordinance, and we had discussed, making sure we get all the fee that we can. And I'll look back in my notes from that, but and then I think I had an email there to Kathy there a few weeks ago about double checking some stuff and making sure we're picking this and that up.
There is, you all sent out a email to all of us. I think Eric Hand delivered it to most everybody.
Yeah, and that goes along with what we were speaking. But I remember, Ted, when we invented this thing, that was one of my concerns. And at the time in 2018, we weren't really in a growth.
No.
But we're kind of back into growth, especially folks that don't live here all the time and stuff. We've picked a lot of that up in the last couple years. So definitely, although I'm not a commissioner on the board, Commissioner Hott is, and definitely I think a committee to look back into that. And I'll go dig up my notes, because I know we spent several days, beating that around as to when that time comes, how we're going to make sure people aren't slipping through the system.
We have a lot of that, I feel.
And, especially now that we're in somewhat of a growth spurt again, we need to make sure we're picking those up.
The 2020 census had Hampshire County at 23,000 and change. The 2023 projections had Hampshire County at a 600 plus influx of people. So, I mean, in population, so yes, there's growth happening in Hampshire County, and we're not capturing it just by the numbers that I give Commissioner Cannon at the work session. We're seeing, at the board, we're seeing our numbers drop that we're collecting fees on, and we shouldn't. I mean, we should be seeing some growth here. I understand that we're doing some exemptions, but nothing to that magnitude, because you all approve it.
So, yeah, just wanted to reinforce that, and I'd be glad to help with that if you guys want, because like I said, we did do some thinking and researching on that way back when, because we knew that was going to be a problem at some point. The other thing I got is just to throw out there for myself and the other two commissioners is when we were at the commissioners conference there a few weeks back, I was reading a paper there, and this is a problem across the state, and and other counties are struggling worse than we are. Like Mr. Swisher said, we've done well, and you all have heard me say that in public meetings before. We have done well. We got our share of problems, but it's a big problem across the state. And my point is, I wouldn't be against, gentlemen, cohorting with Hardy, Mineral, Morgan, Jefferson, Berkeley, Tucker, and approaching our delegates and senators and getting them to give us a funding stream. Because right now they're expecting us to do it all, and I don't think that's fair. A lot of times they brag about their surplus down there, and we sure could use some of it. So I wouldn't be against an aggressive effort, gentlemen. It would have to be aggressive to get their attention for some state funding to supplement, especially these counties like us and Hardy and Morgan and Tucker, who have come to the front and went through the pains of doing this. And let me tell you, there's pains in it. There's everything from threatening phone calls to parents who don't like it teasing your kids at school. And I'm speaking from personal experience. So, it's a hard thing. And, I'm not afraid to put that out there. It's a hard thing, and the state could step in and help us a little bit. That's all I got, guys.
And I think, quite frankly, with the delegates we've got, I think that they will, I think they'll make an effort to help us with that. I really do. Over the past year, 2 years, really, both of those guys have really got involved. And just an example is the Airbnb. We knew that we couldn't do anything, so you got with Mr. Hillebrand, and they may be legislation to change that. And so I think I think Brian's got a good idea. I think that's something that we should request of them, that they push on this, because the whole state is the whole country's having trouble with the EMS and 911. It's not just us. But today, I would like to go ahead and move we approve the recommendation of the HCSA to go to the 24-48 schedule.
I have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you, David.
Tad, when we really worked all that time together, we realized that maybe our projections and thoughts were a little bit high, but you came back with a number somewhere around 400,000.
I believe that's the number we need to concentrate on, sir, and that's what we are concentrating on.
Okay, so this gets us down to 340. So that's,
Well,
I think
actually,
we're getting there.
Yeah,
One plus the grant.
yeah.
Okay, thank you guys for doing this.
Okay,
I really
thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you,
Does the
Courtney.
grant that we got, does that directly help the budget, or is that something we?
To help with the
Okay.
training and all, and the people that we're bringing in.
So that's something that was a realization in the budget every year? So it
2
is,
years, yes.
For those 2 years, yeah.
Because there are people, if I'm correct, when people are precepting, that can count in the
No.
No,
No,
okay.
the only salary that it can go towards is the project manager.
Have trainings,
Yeah.
cut that off, it'll reduce that. Because that's where we're paying a lot of time and a half to.
Well, we're getting there.
We're not done.
We're not done.
We're not done. We're gonna keep cutting.
I'm going to go to planning after this meeting and work on that paperwork we talked about. But as Brian said, and Bob, in the code, it's our responsibility. It's kind of lonely at times. We're the ones that have to figure this out, and it's kind of like having your hands tied behind your back. They give us one or two tools to try to pay for it, and just say you're on your own. But anyways, thank you guys.
All right, I have something else, Jim. Don't think I'm gonna give up and abandon you. I have no intentions of that. It's just come time for me to realize that I'm getting older, I've been here, and I think I've reached most of the goals and above and beyond the goals that I was looking for. And I truly appreciate everything you all have done for the county and for us.
Come a long way, Tad. Long way.
Yes, sir, we have. Now, if it's so appropriate, I'd like to, I handed you a copy of the ad that we would like to position or put in the paper. And then I have job description, and we can discuss it at next commission meeting if you'd like to have time to look it over or whatever you want to do. I know it wasn't on the agenda tonight, today.
Well,
It's a procedure.
yeah, we do have it here, Tad. Board appointments and resignations. Gentlemen, I hear a motion to accept the recommendation, or the resignation, rather, of Director Malcolm.
What was the effective date? Oh,
31st.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I didn't see there.
I plan on sticking around, if y'all let me, till the end of the year to help get everything that we're talking about done.
Brian, make a motion.
Did you move, sir?
Yeah, sure, I'll move on that then for the December 31st requested
I'll second it.
resignation.
Motion and a second to accept the resignation of Director Malcolm as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. Now we can advertise. And this is the way you'd like it written up, Tad?
Yeah, I think it should be. I mean, that's what we did with, similar to the only thing I've taken is taken myself out of it. I put it to work, go to the county clerk. And that would be the ad into the paper, and we'll direct it to the job description, because we have to pay for it in the paper. And I don't like to give them a whole lot more money than we absolutely have to.
I would just say one thing in regard to several grants we do. Advertising in the Martinsburg Journal is something that's helpful, and also the News Review, that gets a statewide exposure as well. So there's options.
You want to wait till next meeting, gentlemen? Look this over?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Yeah,
Would you like to wait, or?
I'm fine with that.
It's no difference to me, and the job description I give you there is inclusive of everything required to be the emergency manager and the HCESA director. I'm going to assume that
Yeah.
possibly you're considering keeping the same. That was a board recommendation. So. All right,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Ladies.
Mr. President, I'd like to commend Ted on an exceptional job. He's been asked to do more with less for a lot of time, you know what I mean? And the other thing I would encourage you to do, and I want to thank you all, and I don't get a chance to see all three of you at one time, but as the guy who's been out in the field, and had to wait for the ambulance while watching a person suffer, I commend you for making the hard decisions, because they weren't easy. I've been here since day one. So while I have the forum, I want to thank you very much, because it hasn't been easy, and it's not. But if you need anything, these two ladies here are phenomenal. I mean, they put together this stuff, and I'm like, wow. So I just came to be their advocate, and I thank you all for the chance to speak.
Well, thank you for volunteering all the time you do, Brent. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
I think we went a little bit over on the agenda. Letter to the Public Service Commission regarding Frontier Service installation delays. Gentlemen.
Mr. Akers.
You want me to touch on that one?
Sure.
Okay. Let me find my paperwork on that. We had a lot of paperwork for the... Okay, gentlemen, I know at least Commissioner Cannon, just through the emails, also got some of this information, but recently down at North River Mills, Mr. Bales contacted me. However, there's, he's got a list of at least 5 other residents in that area that have had this trouble. When they contacted me, just asking, what in the world they could do about this service. And this is strictly landline. I know with internet, by law, internet's still kind of an option, but landlines are not. So they didn't have landline service on April 4th, April 15th, April 16th, April 26th through the 29th, May 9th, May 24th, August 7th, August 8th, August 10th through the 13th, August 29th, August 30th, 31st, September 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That's a lot of days in what there, gentlemen? 5 months? What Mr. Bales explained to me is you can tolerate that maybe, but then each time that happens, there's this process that you have to go through to get a service ticket, and Frontier requires you to stay at the house from 8 till 5 and wait for them to show up. And he said 50% of the time they don't even show up or call you to tell you they're not going to show up. So basically, gentlemen, I told Mr. Bales the process for contacting the Public Service Commission, and my reasoning behind that is at least for landlines, we've had success in the past getting them involved. And I would just like your all's blessing for us to follow up with a letter to the Public Service Commission in support of our citizens down there that, I listed the dates there, and then the process they have to go through each time to get it fixed. That's just, in my opinion, guys, that's pretty poor business. And I can buy, for the internet end of it, just here a couple weeks ago, as many of us know, there's new fiber going in across the county, which is a great thing. And I'm glad Frontier's finally stepped up a little bit there. But it came by our house a few months ago, and a couple weeks later, a salesman came through, and my wife does most of the internet stuff, but she signed us up and told me, like, it was a day about 3 weeks ago, I had to be at the house there, and they were going to come and hook up our new fiber and put new Wi-Fi in the house. So, I'm a pretty active guy. I don't like sitting around the house, so I'm weeding flower beds and mowing the yard and trimming the fence and all that all day long. They never did show up. Didn't hear from them. We finally contacted them, after sitting on the phone for an hour, they said, well, we didn't have the right address. Well, my wife told him you had the right address when you sent the salesman, but anyway, you know, I've got nothing against writing the PSC guys and supporting our citizens there. That's, you saw what I read to you and what they have to go through just for a simple landline. That's pretty ridiculous. So that's all I had, gentlemen, there, but.
Yeah, I agree, and also, for the public and let Mr. Bales know as well, I'm sure you gentlemen know, the FCC in April, Federal Communications Commission voted 3-2 to reclassify broadband as a public utility, which, you know, now they have federal regulations to abide by. So I wouldn't mind CCing them in the letter. Universal affordable access, service quality, network resiliency, reliable backup power, blackout prevention, network replacement. Those are the new regulations, and it seems to me that Frontier pretty much violates every one of those on a daily basis. So, Consumer Protection Division as well of the Attorney General's office could be copied in the complaint.
What, is he going, Brian, you make a motion?
Yeah, my motion is that we, at a minimum, write the PSC, and I'm certainly in favor of what Commissioner Cannon suggested along with that. And then here's the information from the North River Mills residents there that we can pass on to Clerk Strite, assuming he'll draft that letter for us, where I'd be glad to help if he doesn't want to do it.
I'll take your help.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed. Invoices?
Oh, we got several other things too.
All right, whatever, whichever ones you like to do.
Well, if we could. Since HCSA was just here, Tad gave me this morning that I had sent to him sometime back from, it's a survey sent out by Ratliff, Director of West Virginia Office of Emergency Medical Services. And the survey is intended to gather information from Hampshire County, all other counties, in regard to allocating state funds. So it follows along the idea you had, or part of what's existing, in regard to that state funding stream. There's 2 pages back here for the commissioners to sign. So if you would sign your names, yes, I'll fill out the address part. Exonerations and exemptions, start the circle.
Both pages, please.
I don't know why, but they asked for it.
There's another page there, David.
What's our policy on this? Seasonal use campers. They don't have to. What's that matter?
It doesn't unless they already have,
Another residence in the county.
it wouldn't matter on these because they're not a resident. So
1, 4, 3.
they have it as approve or deny.
They denied. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
sorry. They
yeah.
did deny. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only way you wouldn't pay one of these, David, is like if you and Kristen had one, in addition to your house,
Okay.
you shouldn't have to pay again unless you're renting it out. Then you still have to pay, but
All right.
there's the exoneration. Bob.
Mr. President, I move that we authorize or consent to the assessor hiring Sarah Iser for the personnel property clerk position in the assessor's office.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to grant final consent on hiring Sarah Cirque as a personal property clerk at the assessor's office. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passed.
Have we got the exemptions done yet? Okay, you want me to go ahead and do this one? Mr. President, I move that we approve the exonerations presented by the assessor's office.
Second?
A motion and a second to approve the exonerations as presented by the tax assessor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passed.
See the exemption Have you got that, Brian?
Yeah, I was just looking them
Okay.
over there. I'll move that we approve those exemptions and denials for the ambulance fees.
Second?
Motion and a second to approve the exemption approvals and denials as recommended by ECSA. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed.
I had on the agenda on the housekeeping part there, the approval of the poll worker lists. I have not gotten one of the major parties back. So I'll bring them to the next meeting, but yeah, I did get the Democrats list, and it's pretty well filled out.
So we're just going to approve one, the Democratic list?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What I would ask if I could go ahead and have approval to go ahead and move on whatever the Republicans submit and complete them and move ahead. I'll bring all that to you at the next meeting for approval. I need to get my poll workers trained up.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the Democratic poll worker list from the Democratic Executive Committee for the upcoming election, and also the, what did you want on the Republican? You're going to have to bring that.
I'll get them back to you.
Okay, that's my motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
All right, well, I believe our invoices are the final piece, and I have some after meeting. Well, while we're on the thought of CDBG forms, we did that letter as suggested by the people that I thought had checked it out in Petersburg. They got back to me after I sent them the letter that we could affix the president's stamp. They said, no, they really didn't like that. They wanted you guys to authorize me to sign
Okay.
in the president's absence. I wasn't crazy about it.
I don't mind coming in there. I'll just come in and
I
sign.
was going to say, we can keep doing what we're
Yeah,
doing.
let's just keep doing the way we're doing it.
We're good. And I'll
I
have that for you
appreciate that.
after the
It
meeting.
would have saved a lot of time.
The only thing I'd like to add to that is I would like for us to convey to them that it would be helpful if they would get them documents down here within 2 or 3 days to give him time to get in here. When I was president, they done the same thing to me. You know, they send it one day and they need a signature the next. And it's hard. I mean, he's out here working of course, I wasn't working full-time. He's out here working full-time, and so is Brian.
But
It's hard for them just to come in here right now and sign it. So I wish we could convey that to them. They've always done it.
I'll continue to do that, yes. So invoices are all we have.
The courthouse improvement, do we have anything on that, sir?
Mr. Ronkin may.
Hey, Rolf.
No, he and
might have been working.
Rolf, we need you.
That came in my mailbox as the president.
Okay.
I guess it's if we did any DEP stuff, or we have any projects.
Okay.
I was trying to think whether we have any or not on tree plantings or.
Has Mr. Hawk gotten back to you at all on any quotes or anything? The deadline for this improvement grant's rapidly approaching, so.
So, yes, he met with Met's electrical Friday morning. I met with him this morning. The nearest quote we got was $225,000, which honestly doesn't necessarily scare me anymore because I did talk to the executive director of the authority. We can phase this over a period of 2 years. So we could go for the distribution, go from 1 phase to 3 phase, do all the panels. Interestingly enough, of the 28 panels, sub-panels that are down there, 18 of them are so obsolete that you cannot get breakers for them. So my recommendation and the way I've been writing the grant, because I've been working on this, is the first phase being moved from 1 phase, which we're maxed out, to 3-phase service, and then redo the distribution, redo these panels, redo all the electrical. The second part of the second phase would be next year, and that would be for like replacing all the lighting, electrical upgrades to outlets, all of the other items on the electrical list. I believe that this is the way we need to go because we can't even think about doing anything more with like HVAC. Interestingly enough, they are not against mini splits as a fix for the heating and air conditioning in the offices. We don't have the electrical capability to put a single mini split in right now. So this would be a way that we go towards replacing the HVAC in this building. So I'm currently writing it, the grant. I've got the Historical Society requirement. I reached out to them, and that's done. I was waiting for Mr. Hott, who gave me the things I needed to finish this grant. I got that this morning, so it's busy down there. I also am working with the Board of Education for the pro officers' salary, that they have been writing this grant for the last several years. The grant came out late this year. The grant, this is the JAG, Justice Assistance Grant. He literally just got it last Wednesday night. So I'm working with the Board of Education, Denise and Christy, I believe is her name, trying to help them out to get that in. That's due for October. And of course, this infrastructure grant is due 27 September.
Have you received the community engagement and restoration mini grant paper or the watershed?
Is this a part of Chesapeake?
Yeah, I believe so.
We did get awarded the $35,000 for the Chesapeake for the
Parking lot.
Parking lots, but
Okay.
I have not seen that yet.
I would imagine this year's.
Also, Rolf, while I have you here, I'm not sure if you were CC'd in Darren Taylor's email, were you, on the day report? It seemed like there were some strings attached, maybe to that federal grant on policy on how to drug test and things. Are you familiar with that? I don't want to put you on the spot if you weren't in that email.
No, I'm not.
Okay. I'll give you that later, we can talk. But the main thing is, I did want to mention, I mean, three-phase is really expensive to put in initially, but it's a lot cheaper to maintain over time. But how much time do we have to get this done, is the big question for me. It's the 25th of September.
For our infrastructure grant,
Yeah, our courthouse.
27 September is Bewitching Day.
Okay.
Were you talking about to accomplish the work, or is it submit the grant?
Submit the grant, weren't you?
Submit the grant.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's 27 September.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I mean, I think the electrical upgrade would be a good idea.
Just to address, you gentlemen at the 12 August meeting looked at two things, electrical, and then you looked at different items up here specifically.
Yeah.
It was not, I was not able to try to capture that in one category. I think you remember there's like 9 categories. There technically there's 11, but there's 9 broad categories, which aren't that broad. So replacing desks or replacing tables like this, you can't also fix the corner up there.
Okay.
It's 2 different categories. So the electrical became the clear winner to go forward, and that's the approach I took.
Okay. Just need to split it up in 2 stages.
I think we're going to be splitting it up over many stages to get this building completely done, but
Okay.
I received the, and I consider this great news, and Eric has been telling me about it and that, and in 2012, this same authority did a top-to-bottom survey of our courthouse. And it's substantial. I haven't had a chance to read it. I just received this morning, but it has all the pictures. So I'm going to use their document that they developed in order to address all the electrical, because they addressed it in 2012, and it hasn't gotten better. So I'm somewhat optimistic that we will get this grant, and then she was very clear that we can phase this. So we can go after the main, from a single phase to a 3-phase system. We can replace the panels. We can make this, from the standpoint of electricity, a much safer building.
Okay. So we just need to be presented the bids. So we need to rattle their cage.
So we won't receive bids before this goes up. We don't need bids. We need to present them what the budget is. We need to present them the plan, which all of this I'm working on,
Okay.
Commissioner Cannon, but there's no expectation from either the authority or really from me to be able to get bids from people, knowing that we're going to have to rebid it when this gets awarded anyway.
So the grant application only requires the estimate, doesn't
Yes.
require the bid process?
Okay.
So that's safety time since the 27th is approaching.
It-
should meet on the 24th, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, you can't expect, and I'm preaching to the choir, you can't expect companies to come in and do all the research to get all these bids together, knowing that these bids won't be valid by the time
Well, that's
we
not,
get all of
that
this
that wouldn't be
done.
ethical anyway.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be ethical anyway. We know, we're okay.
Yeah, we just need to get them an estimate, that they look at our plan, and then when it's awarded, it's put out to bids, and then we put it out to competitive bids and make a choice.
What was our share on that?
Gentlemen, I
We
20,000.
can, yes, 20,000, 100,000, they will give up to 100,000 this year, and we have to give at least 20.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Invoices. Mr. President, I move we approve the invoices as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed.
Is that everything, Mr. Clerk? I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed.